Hey ISA, so it's time that we talk about culture shock. If you don't know what it is, it's a great time to learn. This is definitely a phrase that you are going to hear as an ISA member and as you are associated with international students and international affairs. Um, so yeah, let's just talk about what it is, how do I handle it, and this presentation is great for two reasons. First off, to help you when you experience culture shock, if you haven't already experienced it. And it will also prepare you to help our international students when this happens to them. So first off, what is culture shock? Culture shock is the feeling of disorientation experienced by someone who is suddenly subjected to an unfamiliar culture, way of life, or set of attitudes. So when you move into a different culture, whatever that is, you experience culture shock. Is experiencing culture shock normal? Absolutely. This happens to everyone, US students, international students alike. It's really common when students enter college. It makes sense for international students coming to a different country, especially this part of the country, perhaps dealing with a different language. But it could even happen to our US students coming to a new state, a new city, just a new way of life. We are in rural Utah, which is very different from a lot of places in the country. Even something as simple as moving from like high school into college or university could be enough to trigger a little bit of culture shock. But everyone experiences culture shock to some degree. Some students may experience it worse than others, but this is something that happens to everyone. All right, so first off, let's talk about the phases of culture shock. There are four. We're going to show you the outline of that and then go through what each phase entails. So first off is the honeymoon phase. Essentially, everything's great. You're on your honeymoon, you're super excited. Don't really see problems just because you're so happy to be on an adventure. Then homesickness starts to set in and you're like, hey, like this is really hard. And you go into phase two, which is crisis phase. Once you start getting used to it and adapting and adjusting to the new culture, it's the phase three adjustment. And then once you're back to normal on that even plateau, you reach the adaptation phase. So you can see level of adjustment, and then as time in the country or time in the new environment goes on, goes through these four phases. So first off, let's talk about the honeymoon phase. What is a honeymoon? Traditionally, when a couple gets married, it's like the vacation or the little bit of alone time that they go on together. For this, when you come to a new country, new school, whatever it may be, it's just that period of excitement when you're like, hey, this is awesome. This is a dream that I've had for a really long time. Um, and so some of the emotions associated with it, problems don't exist. You kind of have tunnel vision and just overwhelmed with happiness. Everything is exciting. Everything is an adventure. After a while, though, that changes for the worse. Um, New social customs that you may not be aware of can make you feel embarrassed, shy, self-conscious. Maybe you just don't understand. People can be different. Language could be different, and that isn't even English to the language of the student's home country. It could just be like university, college, academic language versus what was spoken in your high school or spoken back home. Money is different. Food is different. That's a big complaint that we get from international students a lot. Time is viewed differently, and there's a loss of support system. So when you move into a new environment, a lot of times your family and your friends aren't with you. And it's that phase when you're making new friends. So the people you typically lean on are still there, but they're just far away. So you don't have that immediate in-person support. So emotions that would describe this phase: angry, stressed, physically sick, helpless, homesick, I feel like is a really good one to describe it. Impatient, annoyed, irritated, lonely, depressed, sad. And you don't have to have all of these on the list to be experiencing culture shock. It comes and goes in phases. Like I said, this could be something that's very severe. It could be something that's very minor. It's different for everyone, but these are some of the common characteristics that happen. What you need to watch out for in yourself, and also keep an eye out for other ISA members and the international students that we're helping. If you're noticing these things or noticing changes in people that you know, and you're like, hey, like, why are you acting this way now? It could be culture shock. After that, though, is the adjustment phase, when you begin to see the light at the end of the tunnel. So a frustrating thing with culture shock is that a lot of times it just takes time. You have to get used to it. We're not asking you or the individuals to give up their culture or change. It's just getting used to it. You're adapting, you're adjusting. But once you get through it, you start to see the light at the end of the tunnel. Things that can help you with this is recognize that it's normal. If you know that it happens to everyone, if it's happening to you, you don't feel as isolated or alone. Or if you're helping someone else through it, same thing. You can say, hey, this is really common. It happens all the time. We're going to make sure we get you taken care of. Connecting with international students or just connecting with other students who have been there before is a great help. Giving yourself time and space, as I mentioned, time is a big factor. You just have to make sure you take care of yourself, give yourself some time to process, think, and wait. Learn about the local culture, whether that's the new country, the new state, the new city, the new school, the new group of friends. Just give your time to learn about it, ask questions, be interested, and try to, find the good things about it as well. Improve your English skills. Again, for international students, a barrier sometimes is that language ability, where they feel isolated because they may be embarrassed to speak English, or they may not be as confident in their English skills. And a lot of times this is all this mental. They're able to, they're better than they think. It's just overcoming that barrier. So practicing that is a great way to get them out of their comfort zone and on the right path. Setting realistic goals. Again, this isn't something you can just tough through or get over overnight. So being realistic with those expectations is another thing, so that you're successful when you're setting goals to deal with this. Keeping a journal of thoughts and feelings is also a good way. Sometimes just writing it out. If you're recording a video, typing it on a computer, writing it in a journal, whatever it is, journaling is a great way to just take it out of your head, take it from inside you, give it life somewhere else, and it helps with that process. Viewing things as a challenge in a good way, saying like, you know what? I didn't come here. I didn't do this because I thought it would be easy. I'm doing this because I want to, and it's worth the work. Sleeping and exercise are huge ones. 7 to 9 hours of sleep if you can, at least 6. Regular exercise is also a great way to release endorphins and help. It doesn't have to be crazy exercise. Even just going for a walk around the block or going to the park and hanging out for a little bit is a great way to help. And then, like we mentioned, connecting with friends, making new friends, and then connecting with them or connecting with people who have been through it before. Also reaching out to family is a great way as well. Talked about friendships. Okay, so before we move into the next part, I do have a video that kind of discusses happiness and just being grateful. This is a really big thing about overcoming culture shock yourself or helping others. So let's take a break, watch this video, and then we'll talk about what we've seen afterwards.
Shut up.
What? Yes. Wait.
I was going to be so embarrassed.
What makes you happy? Having fun? Hanging out with friends? Delicious food? Making money? Well, consider this. Psychologists have scientifically proven that one of the greatest contributing factors to overall happiness in your life is how much gratitude you show. Yeah? Think about that. Go ahead and marinate on it for a second. You can thank me later if you want. It'll make you feel better according to this study. You go ahead and click on it and read it if you want. Or you can keep watching because we read it and we thought it might be fun to test out for ourselves. We gathered a selection of volunteers to act as our subjects. First, we gave them a test. They didn't know what we were looking for, but it gave us a pretty good idea of their current level of happiness. We asked them to close their eyes and think of somebody who was really influential in their life, somebody who did something really amazing or important for them. We had them write down as much as they could about why this person was so important. Now, a lot of them thought at this point the experiment was over, until we really put them on the spot and tried to get them to call that person and read what they wrote about them. Thank you, Jessica. We're gonna have you call your mother. So who is that right person for you?
Person is my sister, Erica.
We're gonna give Erica a call.
Okay.
Who'd you end up picking?
Friend of mine, Craig Ains.
Her name is Dora.
My college accounting instructor.
Really? Is this somebody you're still in touch with today?
No, I'm assuming that he's passed on.
That's a
to
shame.
the great beyond.
You up for it?
Yes.
What would you say if we called up Dora?
Oh, we can try, but she lives in Britain.
In Britain?
I don't know number by heart, dude. This is awful.
That's fine. I don't know my mom's number by heart.
If it's true that those who are going on are looking down on us, maybe he read my chicken scratch.
Hey, sweetheart.
Hey, how you doing?
Yeah.
You got a second? Where you at, in the hotel?
I am. I'm in the hotel. You scared me when you asked if I had a second. Something's wrong.
No, I'm on like this little TV show, and they told me to talk about the person that influenced me the most, and I picked you, and they're making me call. They're making me call you.
Oh, wonderful!
Hi, you've reached Craig. I'm not here right now.
At the tone, please record your message.
Oh, come on.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi.
Erica? It's me.
All right, so I got to read you this paragraph. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Go ahead,
All right.
sweetheart.
All right. The person that influenced me the most would be my mother, Marlo Dawson. She is a single mother of 2. She is a very hard worker and dedicated to her family.
Hey, Craig. This is Loie. This is going to be a funny little voicemail, so I hope you enjoy it.
I'm so sorry for calling you at 4 o'clock in the morning.
I have to read this to you, okay? And you can't say anything, or I don't know. You can respond, but I probably will just keep going. Okay?
Is everything okay?
Yes, but I have to read this out loud to you.
The person who has had the biggest impact on my life outside of Jesus Christ, who is responsible for my existence, was my college accounting instructor. He had a joy and enthusiasm for his job like no other teacher I have ever known.
I love her to death, and she keeps me going with positive talk. She is a woman that knows what she wants and won't give up until it is achieved.
Oh, something. I don't know what. I'm about to cry because that's so beautiful. I have to say that's just wonderful.
I first met Craig on an independent feature film set in Whitefish, Montana. I recently have been sending Craig a lot of positive thoughts as he suffered a series of health problems. Despite his medical problems, he's continued to work and take pleasure in the small things in life, like sitting quietly with his wife Janine on the porch.
Erica is my older sister and my best friend. Sometimes it even feels like we are twins. She's my #1 fan and my #1 supporter. She makes me happy because despite all my mistakes and my decisions, she still loves me no matter what.
Your friendship is everything. And you are one of the most important person in my life.
Even when she has a kid and many children, I will love her more than her kids. Okay, maybe not. I will never forget when she flew 3,000 miles at the drop of a phone call to save me from a breakup.
I'm being blessed by having a son like you. I love you.
Bye.
Why did you do that to me?
I don't know, because they made me do it.
Thank you for picking up. Bye, sweetie.
And then they're like, here, you're gonna write this letter. And then I wrote like this whole long ass letter, which, you know, I like don't write. And then all of a sudden they're like, hey, guess what? Now we're gonna call her and you're gonna read her this letter. And I was like, what the f?
Before we let them go, we gave our subjects one more happiness test. Now, we mixed up and rephrased the questions so they didn't know they were taking the same test twice. For those who took the time to actually write something down but couldn't make the phone call for whatever reason, we saw happiness increase between 2 and 4%. It's good, but not exactly mind-blowing. Now, for those who actually picked up the phone and personally expressed their gratitude, we saw increases between 4 and 19%. So either way, expressing your gratitude will make you a happier person. But you want to know something really interesting? The person who experienced the biggest jump in happiness was the least happy person who walked in the door. What does that mean? That means if you're having a particularly tough time, trying this out will more likely have a greater impact on you. Trust me, I'm in a lab coat.
Okay, so just so you're aware, this video is also posted below the one you're watching now if you want to just watch The Science of Happiness separately. But takeaways from that, first off, every single person who participated in that experience had happiness increase. 2%, 4%. If they called and read the letter that they wrote, you know, even greater than that. But I think that's pretty powerful, and because it touches on a few things. First off, they're reaching out to their support system, family and friends, right? It's working with journaling as well, just writing things out and giving it life somewhere else. And then gratitude, which we're going to talk about, is a big thing. Focusing on what's going right, focusing on things that you're grateful for. And even on pretty bad days, like if you can't think of something that you're grateful for, even if it's just like, hey, I'm alive, I have another day, you know, I've got a mom or a dad or family who loves me, or I have that one friend. You know, if you're going to college and you're, you know, especially going to college in another country, there's someone who's helped get you there. If you can't think of at least one thing, however small, probably not thinking hard enough. But gratitude is a huge factor in this. I can speak from personal experience as well. When you're having like really bad days, maybe the worst days, just that one person is all it takes to make a difference. So, you know, remember that for yourself, but also to help other people. And you don't have to call. You can even just wake up in the morning and write down 3 things that you're grateful for from the day before, or 5 things. Because again, then you're focusing on the positive, and you'll find yourself, if you do this regularly, you're paying more attention throughout the day for the good things and keeping an eye out for them so you can put them on the list the next day. So yeah, it was gratitude, scientifically proven to have a huge impact on happiness, and it helps a lot with culture shock as well. So remember that. Next, I want to share some quotes regarding this as well. Constantly grateful people are more energetic, emotionally intelligent, forgiving, and less likely to be depressed, anxious, or lonely. Scientifically proven. External circumstances predict only about 10% of our total happiness. So of that 100%, 10% is stuff we can't control. The other 90% is how we react to it, internal things, how we choose to react, how we choose to view it, to help make us happy. The most successful people see adversity not as a stumbling block, but as a stepping stone to greatness. So again, viewing culture shock as a challenge, like, hey, I didn't want this to be easy. I came here to work for something, and I'm going to make it happen. It's not the adversity itself, but what we do with it that determines our fate. Okay, so when you're making a plan for culture shock, going back to the resources that we discussed earlier, you want to be specific when you're writing down a plan for yourself, or if you're helping someone write it out. So instead of saying, call a friend, that's great, I recommend that, but be more specific. Make this plan now before you need it, or if you're helping someone through it, push them to be very specific. So instead of calling a friend, call Derek, my best friend from elementary school. Or instead of exercising, awesome, take it to the next level. Go for a run around campus with my friend Diana. The more specific you can be, the more it will help. I'm just going to wait for a few seconds for you to think of some examples that you would write down if you were experiencing culture shock, or think of some examples that you might be able to use when you're helping someone else deal with it. Okay, so we've gone through the honeymoon. Things are great. Went down the slide of crisis where stuff changed for the worse. Went through the bottom, started adapting and adjusting and made these strategies and got through it. Now we're at phase 4 where we're back to where we started, but better. We've been through a process called adaptation or biculturalism. Again, people who go through culture shock, we're not expecting them to give up the old and adapt and become the new. We're looking for acculturation or adaptation versus assimilation. So what we'll see is that they're actually bicultural. They still have their old culture, their old way of life, all of that. And now they've adjusted and are comfortable and enjoy the new culture as well. Enjoy the new culture. They've made new friends, understand the new culture, which is a big thing, and understand how to operate in each culture. One thing too that I want to point out that I think often gets overlooked is reverse culture shock. So if you come to SCU for the first time from the US or international, go back home. Living with mom and dad is not as great as it was when you were younger, or going home to a new country. You can experience culture shock in the original culture again. So culture shock is the same thing. Reverse culture shock is you experience culture shock from the culture that you're originally from, because again, you've been out of that culture for a bit. It takes a while to get used to it. So it's common for students to experience everything that we've talked about when they return home or return back to that original culture. So yes, our international students will probably face culture shock again when they get home. But the good news is if they've had ISA members to help and they've had the support systems that we've talked about, they should be able to adjust to it quicker and be more successful. So lastly, what I want to point out most important is if you or someone you know is dealing with culture shock, reach out to an ISA advisor, reach out to International Affairs. This is what we do all the time. It's what we want to do. We're here to help. We're a great resource. We can, help coach you to get them through it. Or if it's something you're not comfortable with, we're happy to take over. But let us know either way. Some other resources, ISA members. So if you are experiencing culture shock, reach out to your fellow ISA members, reach out to your ISA family, or you can refer the student who's dealing with it at the international student, get them in contact with ISA as well. Returning international students, or to rephrase that, someone who's dealt with culture shock before. International student advisors, so that would be Jamie, Carrie, me, Emily, or Alex. ALCC instructors, so the English as a second language or intensive English program, again, are very great resources for our international students. CAPS counselors, counseling and psychological services. This doesn't even have to be for the most severe issues. They can help any student with something as simple as adjusting to college or a new environment that they're having a problem. That is one of their services, and it's easier to fix it when it's a small problem instead of letting it grow where CAPS is the only one who can fix it. So they are a great resource. If CAPS isn't available, CAST, which stands for Care and Support Team, every single international student advisor in International Affairs is part of the CAST team. If you look for that logo on the wall, of instructors, faculty, staff members' offices, it'll show that they're CAST trained, or you can search CAST on SCU's website and find everyone who's trained in this. But again, they're a great resource. That is everything we have on culture shock. I hope that you enjoyed. Like I said, we're going to hit on this again at the retreat. We're going to talk about it at orientation. This is something that you're going to hear a lot, and it's something that we deal with a lot. So pay attention. If you need to watch this again to review, great. I'll post the slides and the video along with this so you can review it at your leisure. So thanks for watching.